Hey guys, we've got a Ducati V2 Panigale up on the stands at the moment, and we're pulling this bike down. We're actually going to lower it for a customer, and he's just decided that he'd like to actually improve it while it's apart. And good news, these things, even though it's the base model, it comes with very, very good suspension components. We have the Showa Beep, well, we don't have them here at the moment, they're on the bench, but we've got the Showa Big Piston Fork, which is an awesome fork. In standard trim, they're a little bit slow on the rebound. They don't handle the compression all that well, but it's only a couple of little tweaks and we can get this much, much better, to the point that I would much prefer the Big Piston Fork modified than a lot of aftermarket cartridges. Now, also on this bike, the shock absorber, which we don't have in here at the moment, is the SAC shock absorber. Very, very similar in its format to the Öhlins. The manufacturing process sees a lot of components which are almost copied from the Öhlins. And the original settings that they have in here are a little bit abrupt, they're a bit firm. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to change these settings and make this a much, much plusher motorcycle. Now, it really only requires a bit of configuration of the compression damping, and we also modify the compression adjuster. And we'll be showing you that while we've got the components apart on the bench. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so here we are at the valving bench. We have our shock and our big piston forks laid out. You can see why they call them big piston forks. I mean, this is a regular size fork valve out of a 20mm cartridge. So the big piston forks have got very, very good oil flow. And as you can see, we have a whole lot of metal disc here. These are spring steel shims. And for us to tune the force values within the fork and the shock, we basically alter the quantity, the diameter, or the thickness of these shims to give us a tuning effect. Now, the quality of the piston from the SAC shock is very, very good. Jake, have you got the body there for the SACs? And we're also modifying the compression adjuster because basically oil gets forced through the compression adjuster by the rod actually entering the shock body. Now, the shock body here is very, very good. It's a steel-bodied shock, and what we're looking for from the actual housing here is a low friction performance. By having a steel-bodied shock, we're actually going to get a better performing shock absorber than any alloy-bodied shock. We have a piston reservoir. Ideally, we'd swap that out and put a bladder in there, but we don't have one that we're going to put in there today. But simple tuning effects are going to bring about an amazing result, both with the forks and the shock on this. So, like I said, if you're going to have these things apart to service them, to lower them like we're doing with this bike, get some revalving done while you're there. You're going to actually end up with a much better performing motorcycle. And whilst it's all apart, it costs very, very little to do it. So, economical time, let's make the most of it. Okay, so we've got the shaft all buttoned up and it's ready to go back into the shock absorber. Naturally, we're going to use the highest quality oil in here, set the right gas pressure, and we're away. Our travel limiting spacer has been installed, which will allow us to lower the bike. It's a very, very simple process. If this guy wants to actually return it back to standard height, we'll simply take it apart, take the travel limiting spacer out, put the original spring back in, job's done. Okay, now the beauty of putting a spacer in there versus lowering links, we would never ever fit a lowering link. I hate those things. Best thing you can do with a lowering link is take it by one end and throw it as far away from your bloody bike as possible. With the travel limiting spacer, you simply open the shock out, up, take that out, put the spring back on, good to go. Okay, so here we are, we're ready to reassemble our forks. We've put our travel limiting spacer in here. Here is our main valve. We've actually revalved that, so we're going to get much nicer ride quality. And once again, if we ever want to restore this fork back to full height, we simply open it up, take the travel limiting spacer out. Now this spacer is, we've machined this out of a product called acetal. It's also known as Delrin. It's an engineering grade plastic, and it's highly lubricious in that it's very, very slippery, good temperature and chemical resistance, and this is not going to create any damage whatsoever. I've seen people put steel and aluminium spacers in here. Not good. That's going to create wear and contaminate the oil. Look, it's very, very simple to do this and achieve economical results when you understand your product at component level. And so there are a lot of people that just go out and make wholesale changes, and you can drop a set of $2,000 cartridges in here without any problems. And I would be very, very surprised if you're going to get a better performance than what we'll get from this. The actual ability for this thing to perform is very, very real. All it needs is tuning to suit the requirements of the individual rider. And in this case, as I said, we're going to lower it as well. But this gentleman's going to have a bike that's going to suit him, suit his dimensions, match his ride expectations, and basically put a bigger grin on his face. Now, we've also put new seals and everything in here. We've buffed the fork tubes. We go to a lot of care, more care than anyone that I know. And for us, I mean, we just want to take this to the extra mile. So we'll put this back in the bike now, get it all together, and we'll go out and test. Right now. Thank you. Okay, so we've got the bike packed together, shocks in, forks are in. One of the things, whenever we're lowering a bike, we do realise we can slip the forks up through the triple clamps. And so we actually lower the forks 10 millimetres less than what we lower the shock. And this just gives us the opportunity to maintain maximum fork travel. And so by bringing them up 10 millimetres, we then restore the actual geometry and we get the bike travelling along the flat plane. And so we've put new springs in this, heavier springs in the forks, slightly heavier springs in the shock. We've now got reduced travel to absorb the same energy, the same impacts over, and so the suspension needs to be firmer. One of the things with a lot of lowering links is they actually soften the suspension. We don't want that, okay? We actually need it to be firmer, less distance. We need to accommodate that. Now, what we also do is we're going to shorten this side stand. Now, Grant is a specialty welder. He's got a beautiful Kempe TIG welder, and so we're just going to measure this up now, and we'll be fitting this so that we get the correct lean angle on the bike. And then once he's done welding, we're actually going to spray finish this, so we'll paint it as well. So it'll go back on the bike looking brand new and most appropriate. Okay, so we've just taken this bike for a ride. The thing is working awesome. It's handling, braking, steering, everything is working really, really nicely. I just want to put a half a turn of preload back onto the rear just to give it a little bit more support, but so far very, very happy. And Sergio, who owns the bike, he's going to jump on here and it's going to be a lot nicer for him than what it ever was before. For me, I'm 6'3", 105 kilos, and basically I don't have trouble reaching the ground on very many bikes at all, but we appreciate that some guys have different needs, and what we try to do is maintain the integrity of the motorcycle. I mean, the last thing you want to do is buy a stallion and then cut its balls off, you know. So basically, we've managed to maintain all the handling traits and improve it, and make it more appropriate for Sergio. So he's going to have a lot of fun on this bike, and job's done, and couldn't be happy with the way it's turned out. As I said, we're going to make this little tweak now and hand the bike over. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so our bike's gone back together, we've test rode it, and I couldn't be happier with it. Now, when you lower a bike, a lot of people ask, are you going to actually compromise the handling? And you know, the answer is no. We will compromise some of the ground clearance, but we make efforts to ensure that we're going to have the steering, we're going to have it hold up on the brakes, it's going to manage the bumps. We'll do everything within our capability to get the utmost out of that motorcycle. Now, I rode that bike beforehand in its standard trim, and then riding it again afterwards, I was pleasantly surprised at the improvement that we're able to create. So not only do we get it lower to actually suit the customer's dimensions, but we've got a really, really lovely handling motorcycle. Now, yes, there are those people out there that could have said, well, why didn't you just throw a lowering link in there? You know, you just bolt that in and be done with it. Well, you don't just bolt it in and be done with it. If you bolt a lowering link in there, you are really going to cock up that ride quality. You know, basically you just lower it in the bum, the front then gets raked out, it rides like a chopper, you're going to affect the steering. One of the things I hate about the lowering links is what they do to the leverage ratio, and they really compromise the bike's performance. But hey, if you know, if you look at a restaurant and you go, well, why would I pay $30 for a steak? I can just go and get a Big Mac. Yeah, that's your lowering link for you. You know, so we want to do things properly, and you know what, we made that bike suit the customer, it suited what he wants from his motorcycle, and that was all about enjoyment and ride quality. And so by the time we were finished, we put springs in that bike, we revalved it, we cut the side stand, we repainted the side stand, and everything has been lowered to basically get his feet on the ground. He's now 100% comfortable, he's confident on the motorcycle, and we've got a happy customer. And so that's what it's all about. Yes, you can have a cheaper outcome, but you know, at the end of the day, it's still nice to know that people are out there trying to do things properly.